Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. The focus for today's episode is what I will call stepping into the gap. It's that difference between where you are now and where you want to be, and how you're going to step into that gap between those two. I talk a lot on this channel about creating your reality, but sometimes it's good to go into the logistics of this. You have built up a vision that you want to accomplish, a place that you want to go, a feeling that you want to generate, and you're in a current situation and you want to move from that situation to that place where the reality has come true. So you have to step into the gap. There is a lot of tension in the beginning of leaving the past behind and stepping into the gap between where you were yesterday and that place you desire to be. The power to reinvent yourself in the gap begins with understanding how much the past keeps you from achieving what you want through fear and anxiety. The fear and anxiety foster self-doubt, which in turn governs your present reality and keeps you from stepping into the gap. The gap is the arena where you take on new challenges to create the life you want. There are critical aspects to taking on new challenges and making life more meaningful. One of the more critical aspects is the interrelationship between holding on to the past, holding on to your old life principles, and holding on to fear and anxiety versus letting them go by stepping into the gap to make major changes that ultimately transform your life. Part of this question is the idea of taking action. What do I need to do beyond just simply imagining? Some will say that you don't have to do anything. Some will say that you have to do something. So what do? How do we step into this gap between where we're at now and where we want to be? It is important to understand why people hold on to the past and hesitate to step into the gap so that you can see why you may be doing so. The reason that you're in your reality now is your past and how you have treated your past and held on to it. It is sometimes easier to see where others become stuck because they are holding on to the past and are reluctant to let go, and how this keeps them stuck and unable to move forward. However, when we look at ourselves or when we are caught up in some emotional event, it is difficult to see our own inability or reluctance to let go of past beliefs and notions. Perhaps the most common reason is there is this need to cling to the familiar. Even when we know these notions from the past don't work, we tend to identify with the past or a belief as if it were part of us, something that is a part of our daily ritual, our daily habits. It is familiar because we built a life around these notions. In addition, people are sometimes reluctant to relinquish certain things from the past because they fear they will reactivate painful memories of their childhood. One example that comes to mind of past memories holding someone back is my friend Sandra. Now, Sandra was afraid to get married. She had this belief that marriage was filled with burdens and obligations because of what she experienced as a child when her father abandoned the family. She believed marriage would cause some of the painful events she experienced as a child, having to scrape by, encountering money problems and debt, which created a lot of uncertainty and fear. Everyone is fearful to some degree about moving forward on any new venture. So if you're fearful, don't feel guilty about that or look down upon your fear. But people move forward in spite of the fear. However, there is a reason why other people do not. They don't move forward because they are reluctant to let go of something. Oftentimes I encounter people that are trying to create a reality, but they're holding on to something in the past that does not allow it. What are you reluctant to let go of? What are you holding on to? What is the purpose of holding on to memories from your childhood or adolescence? How is this serving you? What do you have to do to give up and let go of images from the past? Once you uncover the reason, you can begin to let go. You must let go of whatever keeps you stuck in the past in order to embrace the future. People are afraid to move forward because it means giving up some investment in the past, however painful and unpleasant the past has been. One way to look at this is the person that chooses to become a doctor and spends 7 years becoming a doctor, and then they absolutely hate it, but they've invested so much in becoming a doctor, they end up doing something that they hate. People are reluctant to let go of the past because they invested their emotions in being a certain way. This investment in holding on to the past has yielded some benefit or reward. This investment is the reason. The benefit is the comfort of not taking the risk, and that comfort is called a secondary gain. The secondary gain is a payoff for not having to get uncomfortable, but it keeps us stuck. In the case of Sandra, the woman who associated marriage with being abandoned and burdened with debt and living in poverty, what does she have to do? She has to give up this image. But how? She believed that if she married and things turned out well, then she couldn't keep feeling sorry for herself. She couldn't keep being angry and resentful about how she was hurt during her childhood. The payoff in not getting married, she could blame her past when things didn't work out. She did not have to take responsibility for making a go of her life. Listen to the life principles she formed in order to protect herself. I don't rely on others, so I won't be disappointed. Also, I won't be weighed down if they impose on me. As an adult, and this is the point, she can choose whether to carry these burdens that restrict her life, or she can relinquish the past and let go of the burdens that keep her from functioning in the world in an enjoyable and exciting way. This means letting go of the people who she feels caused her pain and now resents. In this case, she must forgive her father in order to let herself off the hook. To pursue her vision of marriage, she can choose to let go of the grudge she has against her father. By making this choice, she releases the resentment. She lets go of the past, which allows her to live her life today in terms of what today can bring. She no longer has to hold on to the resentment or deny herself the opportunities for living her life. It's an amazing thing when people awaken to the notion that they no longer have to be angry or resentful, that they can just drop the past without any explanation to anyone or to themselves except that they decided to. This is why revision can be powerful, because you can imagine something different and suddenly you're letting go of the past. You may ask, you mean I can just let it go? I don't need to have a reason or explain to others why I'm letting it all go? The answer is yes. You can just drop it. You don't have to explain why to anyone, nor do you need to get anyone's permission. You may not believe it and ask, you mean I can just drop all the anger and resentment that I've been carrying and holding on to for all these years? What about my anger? Some people become addicted to it. And what about getting even? And my feelings? I've had those for a long time. This is the investment. There are no rules as to what you can let go of or that you have to remain bitter. Where is the rule that says you need to be angry and bitter and keep the past alive? Where is the rule that says you have to carry it? In fact, there are few rules about anything. It is a choice. It is your choice. By now, if you follow this podcast, you have learned which life principles keep your past alive. These old life principles keep you from living in the present, keep you from stepping into the gap, the arena where you take on challenges. There are many life principles that keep us stuck. There are a few. You can start with the idea that your childhood was a disappointment or you weren't loved. The idea that your life would have been different if you'd been brought up in a different section of town, or raised by a different family, or went to a different college, or were not the oldest child, or not the youngest child, or were not black, white, tall, short. These principles were ideas born from excuses or rationalizations. They're so strong that they keep people from living successfully and stepping into that gap. Any belief that people rely on that keep them from being all they can be are the source of pain, jealousy, resentment, envy, and anger. This is hard to accept, but the beliefs that explain people's life experiences govern their perception of the world, color their actions, and provide a rather limited perspective of what they can do and not do, whom they can trust, and how they should behave. For example, take the notion of men don't show their emotions. If you believe this, You shut down a whole range of feelings and sensibilities that deepen your experience of the world and help you to create your reality. Or if you have a life principle of don't trust anyone, everybody can't be trusted, then you cut yourself off from opportunities to relate to people, to get support from people, to interact with people, and find enjoyment and incitement and what others can bring. Name yours. What do you feel strongly about? All these beliefs become life principles and reinforce feelings of inadequacy. In effect, they govern what you pursue. The belief that you need more external approval or a bigger house or more clothes or more of something that doesn't come from inside of you to make up for some insufficiency never fills the void. In fact, it perpetuates the feeling of inadequacy. The key is right in front of you. Once you see you have certain beliefs that don't work, you can begin dropping them and start focusing on yourself from the inside, on your core, your center, to be who you are and tap into your gifts to develop self-mastery. I have a friend I was talking to the other day that gave a speech in India. And as he spoke, he noticed people shaking their heads, no. He couldn't believe it, so he gave more proof of what he was talking about, and they kept on shaking their heads, no. And so he felt disappointed. He was walking out, and somebody said, wow, what a great talk. And he said, well, I'm not so sure. So many people disagreed and told him about the people shaking their heads, no. And he laughed and said that in India, shaking your head from side to side is yes. People form beliefs that are not true and hold on to them, not understanding the situation. Some people hold on to a belief that allows them to blame other people or allows them to blame circumstances for their life because it reduces anxiety, but it only reduces anxiety in the short term. Blaming someone else or circumstances for your situation is a rationalization and can become a source of anxiety. These beliefs keep you stuck, feeling discouraged. They keep you from taking full responsibility for doing things that can liberate you and bring you a fuller and more satisfying life, becoming as much as you can be. In order to do things that can liberate you and to live a fuller life, you must take full responsibility for what you can do in the present moment. But in order to take full responsibility, you must first give up all the reasons and excuses that have kept you locked in the past. Consider all the reasons and excuses that keep you from taking risks and moving your life in the direction of your choice. Ask yourself, why haven't I done the things that I wanted to do? Why haven't you started that book you want to write? Why haven't you joined that dating website? Why haven't you started that exercise program? Why haven't you taken that course? Why haven't you applied for that job? Why haven't you started action towards your vision? What reasons are you using to hold you back? Whatever the reasons, they typically reflect a set of principles or beliefs learned in the past about failure, making mistakes, and embarrassment. One example comes to mind is someone I worked with who felt responsible for taking care of her mother. As a child, the woman's mother attacked her verbally, and she spent much of her childhood in her room, crying and feeling that life was miserable. The pattern continues because as an adult, she keeps seeking her mother's approval and approval from people who are likely to attack and criticize her. She has friends who attack her, pretty much the same way her mother did. This is part of that vicious circle that happens when you create from within based on your past beliefs. You may see a similar pattern in yourself. You have friends who mistreat you, or worse, reinforce beliefs that aren't true. Do you feel you need the approval of others, a parent, a friend, spouse, boss, church, or a group of people? You may feel undeserving. Identify it, and whatever it is, you can choose to let it go. You can stop the pattern. What does this person need to do to get through this pattern, this vicious circle? As difficult as it may be, she has to forgive her mother. This means letting go of what her mother did and stop looking for approval and realize it isn't there. It has nothing to do with her. It has to do with her mother. She has to recognize that she is complete. She has to recognize that she can function in the world quite independently of what she got from her mother. She can let go of her resentment and her constant search for approval by functioning in terms of what she wants, her vision. But she has to decide and commit to what she wants. She needs to start making decisions that align with her vision. She does not need to make decisions based on her interpretation of what she believes others want, which is what I see all the time. This by itself will be liberating. She only needs to take action in line with what she wants and not be concerned with whether she may hurt the feelings of those around her. She doesn't need anyone else's approval to do what she wants to do. She has to stay on her own track, her own course. She has to incorporate other activities that resonate from her core. This will have a centering effect. This means she has to be able to start creating the world around her own objectives, around her own worthiness, and not keep compromising herself by trying to meet the expectation of others. She compromises herself by trying to meet the expectation of others, and because she uses this as the lens through which she sees the world, she uses this template of the past as a lens, which we all naturally do. And she keeps anticipating that people are going to attack her as she was attacked as a child. People with fear-based symptoms, or those who lack confidence and are full of self-doubt, have to let go of their dependencies. If you see yourself as doomed to a life of misery and depression, it makes sense to let go of any relationships that reinforce such views. This can be hard, I know, but you have to let it go. So you have to let go of dependency on people who put you down, people who reinforce your negative self-image. Yes, I'm talking to you. In effect, you have to stop doing the things that keep generating fear, uncertainty, self-doubt, and despair. When your friends commiserate with you for being alone or pressure you to get married or blame them some group that is holding you back, you wind up feeding the despair, fear, and self-doubt. Recognize you may have the wrong friends or reference group. Relinquish your desperate self-image and stop looking for confirmation that you are pathetic or desperate or frightened or problematic. You can free yourself from the past when you stop looking for confirmation from others that you are a certain way. When you do this, you can begin to interpret your freedom as an opportunity to choose to reinvent your life from a new perspective of personal empowerment and high performance and what your vision tells you. You can start imagining what it is that you want. A lot of times I talk to people that are imagining their reality, but at the same time, they are with people that are constantly telling them that that is not their reality. And so they depend on the views of others, and it affects their ability to jump into the gap. And what you need to do is jump into the gap now. Whatever your objective is, start now to pursue it. Whatever your desire is, now is the time. When you begin to pursue the vision or the objective associated with it, that is when you're in the gap. Pursue it by taking the specific incremental steps related toward the objective. Don't wait until next week. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait until everything is in place. Waiting until everything is in place is a typical perfectionist thing. Start today. Start in the next moment. Enter into the next moment as if it is the entry point to the future objective. Don't wait until you feel good or develop confidence. You can't sit in the driveway waiting for the lights to turn green before you leave for work. You develop the confidence when you are on your way toward the objective, self-mastery. And that's what we are talking about. Only comes from taking action. Mastery only occurs in the gap of where you were and where you wish to be. Step into the gap and begin to move forward today. Get out of your old routines. If you're trying to create a new reality and you are continually assuming the same old routines, you gotta get out of it. Make a list of the things you need to do. Take one of the items on the list and start doing it now. It may be something simple like making a phone call. Make the call. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Make the call. Then go to the next item on the list and do this every day, and the progress you will make will be astounding. As Emerson said, a decision must be made, the best if you can, but any is better than none. There are 20 ways of going to a point, and one is the shortest, but set out at once on one. You may feel you don't know which objective to pursue, or you may have several objectives, or you may not have any objectives at all. The point is to pick one. It doesn't really matter which one. The critical thing is to get on the path of mastery, get on the path of a higher purpose, on the path to living the creative vision, on the path of achieving your wish fulfilled. Therefore, it is not that critical as to which objective you pursue, but it is critical to pick an objective. You may not have any goals or visions, or you may be waiting for a bolt of lightning to point you in the right direction. This is the point. There is no right direction. There is only the action. You need only to take action and be willing to step into the arena of the unknown, where there is uncertainty. More to the point, commit to an objective that has a larger frame of reference from which to live your life. The commitment may be that you are going to make a difference in your life, or that you're going to try to have an impact on your community, to serve others, or that you want to be one of the best in your work or sport. You want to have a larger frame. Then you want to step into the next moment and live your life from this reference point, from this commitment to the end. It doesn't really matter what you choose to do. It matters only that you begin to act in the next moment, that you step into the gap, ideally in terms of a future perspective that frees you up from being trapped in the past. This doesn't come easily. You may be inclined to procrastinate or avoid commitment. You may be waiting in a perfectionistic manner until you are absolutely certain before you act. Actually, acting now will help you see the value of action, the value of speaking clearly, and the value of living from a larger vision of your life. And when you do this, when you take action in terms of some larger concept, you begin to see the world from a perspective that you have never seen before. When you are looking at the world through the template of some larger concept, your future vision. This larger concept oftentimes involves thinking about something more than yourself. Recognize that the value is not in achieving the specific objective you choose. It's just making the choice. The value comes from pursuing one. So you begin thinking and acting in terms of the vision of your wish fulfilled. Even if it's just a short-term goal, it helps to aim at something so that you can begin to take action using the goal as a guide to move forward. The objective, the vision, pulls you toward it and away from your past, away from your fears, self-doubt, and anxiety that want to run your life. When you pursue the objective, when you seek out the end, will the past come up? Will pursuing an objective be scary? It doesn't matter if the past comes up or whether you are scared. You will not know if either of those things will happen until you try to start moving toward your objective. If the past comes up, you have tools. You can ride out the fear. But more importantly, you continue to take action. What we are doing now is advocating that you act independently of your beliefs by pursuing an objective. Take action, acting independent of the thoughts that may come up as you move towards your vision. The important thing is to take action in line with your objective. Like the speech in India that I referred to earlier. What if that person just quit, thinking that everybody disagreed with him when in fact they agreed? The past is always there. As you move toward the objective or a larger commitment, the past will come up in the form of habits, anxiety, and fear, in the form of beliefs, resistance, and inhibitions. And this is the core of what you're trying to do right now. You may not realize it, but if you are on the path to achieving, experiencing, or creating something in your future, then this is what you're dealing with no matter who you are. At the same time, when you begin to act in terms of this larger perspective of service, you begin to see that most of these obstacles that you fear are in your memory. There are no demons. It's all in your head. What you really understand is ultimately that it is possible to act in terms of reality independently of your past memories. Your past memories don't have to guide you. In other words, you allow the information in front of you to guide you. Find and allow the vision for the future to frame your actions. When you do this, you begin to step forward independently of the fears and concerns that may not be true. In other words, whenever you take action, the action allows you to bypass long-standing myths that keep you stuck and prevent you from reaching self-mastery and realizing your true potential. To move forward, to step into the gap, it makes sense to take actions towards small goals that relate to the larger vision. If you can't think of the vision, invent one larger than yourself. If you work, invent a vision to be the best at your job. If you're going to school, invent a vision to get an A in class. If you're unemployed, invent a vision of finding a job. The critical thing is to get into action and begin moving toward an objective that will force you to stretch your abilities and ultimately tap your true potential. Here are some questions that you may ask to help you determine a vision. What is something you've put off doing all your life? What is something you've always wanted to do but never got around to doing? What is something you can do to improve your relationship with your spouse, your children, a colleague, or business partner? What can you clear up that is blocking the relationship? What is something you can do to improve some athletic activity, sport, or physical fitness routine, or your health? What is a creative or artistic endeavor that you would like to do but have been afraid to try? What is an area of your work or career that you can begin to look at to see what's missing, to see how you can improve? When you begin to function in terms of a creative objective, a vision for personal empowerment, you will discover that you have the capacity to change. This means you can begin to function in terms of a general concept in order to change all areas of your life. More importantly, you can pick a small goal and begin to move toward it now. In the process of doing that, you'll raise your level of consciousness about what's inherent in the process of change, as well as what's inherent in the process of creating your life through the stand of your vision. What tends to happen at this point is people begin to identify grievances and resentments that they haven't let go of. You can begin to relinquish the burden of the past by listing all the grievances and resentments that you hold towards others. Here are some questions for you to answer in terms of identifying burdens that you are carrying from the past. Who has done you wrong? Make a list of all the people you feel have harmed you. List as many of these experiences as you can remember, focusing on all the things that you have never resolved, including any resentments, remorse, and feelings of guilt that you carry with you, things you have done or things that you believe were done to you, which you've never let go of. What are some of the thoughts and memories and feelings that are evoked as you visualize these experiences? What did you do wrong? What wrong did others do to you? What do you resent? What do you have remorse about? Be as comprehensive and complete as you possibly can when answering these questions. And as you review your list of grievances, consider how much of your life is built around covering up these painful experiences and feelings. How much energy has been consumed and is still being consumed by grief, irritation, anger, and resentment. In previous episodes, I've discussed in detail the importance of forgiveness. Forgiveness plays an essential role in your well-being. It is important to let go by forgiving others because it allows you to release the negative energy you have carrying around. You can use this energy towards something positive, and it is an energy that you're holding back. It does increase your energy when you start to forgive. Once you've answered those questions I just gave you, and you created a list of grievances, it's useful to consider the extent to which you can forgive others and relinquish the resentment and the frustration that you feel toward them. The biggest problem I have when I ask these kind of questions is people are still not very honest with themselves. They have things they are angry about or hold resentments for. They still are not willing to put down on that list. Be honest with yourself when you do. It's useful to act forgiving toward others, irrespective of how you actually feel. This is living from the stand of forgiveness. It is living from your core, your center. The question then becomes, what will it take for you to let go of these grievances and resentments in order for you to achieve your goals and create your reality? What will you have to give up in order to let go of these grievances and resentments in order to create your reality? What is it that is holding you back from letting go of resentment towards significant people in your life? Answering these questions is critical to giving up the past and relinquishing resentments that you continue to hold, as well as letting go of fears that no longer are valid and eliminating self-doubts rooted in false and imagined beliefs. Learn to liberate yourself. Forgiveness is a powerful tool to let go of resentments, remorse, guilt, and other emotions from the past. It bears repeating. It is useful to act towards others from the stand of forgiveness, irrespective of how you actually feel. Live from the stand of forgiveness. When you can live from the stand of forgiveness and let go of the past and let go of anger and resentment, you'll begin to notice anxiety and tension coming up in your body. This is normal. Don't be afraid. Don't stop doing it. From the stand of forgiveness and feeling forgiving, you can allow the anxiety and tension to pass, to dissipate, to let go, to release it instead of keeping it in your body. By being forgiving, there's no reason to hold on to resentments that cause the anxiety and tension anymore. When you forgive everyone for everything, and I know that sounds impossible to some that are listening, you discover an enormous amount of freedom to be in the world. Maybe it's a government organization. Somebody did terrible. Somebody poisoned the water that you drank. How can you forgive them? You will realize how much you've been holding on to the past and how much you've been trapped by images of the past, which have kept you from being as fully engaged in the world as you can be. I want you to release these past grievances and resentments now, right now, while you're listening to me. It's useful to spend quiet time thinking over the list that you developed from the previous exercise. Then after you've reviewed the list fully, visualize each person and the resentment and say, I forgive you for this. At first, it may not feel like you're truly forgiving them, but just do it. Slowly work down the list and begin to relinquish your grievances towards each person and finally forgive them all. Then, most important, forgive yourself as well for anything and everything. Once you've done this and allowed yourself to relinquish the need to control your negative thoughts and feelings, you can now allow yourself to experience your feelings. Recognize that your negative thoughts and feelings will pass as the waves of the ocean pass, moving to and fro. That is something that has helped me. Imagine your thoughts as a part of the ocean just moving along. If you can let go of the need to control your feelings, to cover up your anger, to cover up your resentment and your hurt, then you can begin to be in the world in a more relaxed way. Know that your thoughts can harm you and that you need to fear nothing, since nothing that you see is really there. When you're doing this, perhaps in meditation, perhaps in the silence, or as you're sitting there, I want you to breathe, relax, and release it. You begin to see what you're afraid of is in your own thoughts about yourself and the past. By letting go of these thoughts, you can be in the world in a more liberated way. You need only relinquish memories from the past and some of your ideas about yourself and the need to control your response to the events of your life. When you let go of the need to control others and let go of your need to control events, you then develop the capacity to become free. In fact, the only thing you need to do is to be able to learn to speak and act your vision, to say what you want and begin to live in the world in terms of your vision. As you let go of the past and the need to cover up the emotional responses to the past, you begin to discover the world is an exciting place, full of opportunity, and that it is in fact possible to create the reality that you want to live in. At this point, you're beginning to make distinctions between the past, the present, and the future. You are beginning to be able to relinquish the past, relinquish the concerns for what people think about you, and relinquish the concerns for acting and behaving in ways you learned while you were growing up. You can begin to function in terms of some consciously chosen objective that you can now establish as an adult. You can create something, engage in a particular activity, or do something artistic. You can begin to function in terms of a whole new way of being. Then in the course of time, you can discover that in the process of doing this, you can ride out your anxiety, ride out your discomfort, ride out all of your fears and concerns you've based on the past, and begin to function in an entirely new way as you let go of the past and let go of the next moment to cover your reactions to the past. You begin to function in the world in a powerful and more meaningful way. You begin to experience the world in the expanded vision of yourself, in the world created out of a willingness to invent and create your life from nothing, without any evidence or reassurance, simply by making a commitment and then living in terms of the commitment. What I want you to do is just a couple exercises right now. In your journal, and you should have one, everyone should, write down a specific direction for yourself. This is an objective. It can be something for the week or the month. The point is to aim for something. If you have a vision, use your vision to create the objective. Once you've created the objective, create the structure of fulfillment. What do you need to do to achieve it? What is missing? Whose help do you need? Have you created a routine, a scheduled time to get these things done? Are you associating with like-minded people? Is there a way to measure this to indicate where you are towards this objective? Create a blueprint or a schedule to achieve your objective. What needs to be done? What is the order of priority? What can you do? When can you do it? And then I want you to step into the gap and take action. Remember, only action is action. And the time has come for you to step into the gap. The gap between where you are now and where you want to be. You may think that you can simply sit and imagine, but your actions have a cause and effect and are guided by your imagination. So in order for you to step into the gap, that's why I bring this stuff up about resentment and forgiveness and the past, because it is related to where you're going. So if you let that stuff go, you forgot about all that stuff, and now you're sitting and imagining, you have more energy. You're more excited to be in the moment, and you can push this energy towards the future. And when you do, you will naturally find yourself moving towards that future thing. But in my experience, action is the key. Taking that action, stepping into the gap. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.